Good evening everybody, and welcome to the extraordinary meeting of the full council for Tuesday the 27th of February. And the first item on the agenda, item 207, is apologies for absence.
I've had apologies from Councillor Humphreys, Councillor Glenn, Councillor N. Oakes and Councillor S. Oakes.
Thank you. We know two of them are abroad, and I think two are in London. Mm-hmm. So do we accept the apologies?
Yeah. Most of them.
Thank you. Moving on to item 208, declarations of interests. To receive and consider any declarations of interest from members and officers under section 50 of the Local Government Act 2000. That's our Standing Order 35. This requirement applies only in respect of matters which are to be considered by the Council at this meeting. 20801, to declare any disclosable pecuniary interests. Anybody? Councillor Peel.
Yeah, I might have an interest in the last 03. I think he's got it.
Right. Okay, any other pecuniary interests? No. 20802, to declare any other interests. Councillor Chappell.
I should formally declare that I was a member of the Blackthorn Neighbourhood Plan Group.
Thank you. I will declare, just in case any mention of Glapthorne Neighbourhood Plan comes up, I am a resident of Glapthorne. I have not been either a member of their working party, Neighbourhood Plan Working Party, or their parish council, but I am a resident, so just to mention that in case anything about Glapthorne should come up. 20803, to consider any requests for dispensation. No. 20804, to report any gifts or hospitality accepted over the value of £50. No. 20805, to report any inappropriate gifts or hospitality offered. No. Jolly good. 209 is public participation from interested parties or members of the public. We've got a few members of the public. Have you heard anything from? Nothing's been notified to the clerk. If any of you wish to speak, speak now or forever hold thy peace. The members of the working group, I am happy for them to help us in the long boring item towards the back end of this meeting. When we're going through the detail in the plan. But if any of you have anything you wish to raise, you have your opportunity now. No? Okay, that's fine. Consideration of requests from interested parties. As we've received none, there's no consideration. I'm going to take these three items in a different order to the way they're shown on the agenda, because I think that will simplify matters. I'm going to start with item 21103, to receive the notification letter from ENC regarding the sale of Fletton Field, which is listed as an asset of community value. And in your pack, you've got a copy of the letter from Sean Matthews, confirming that it is an asset.
That's helpful.
And therefore, under the terms of that, Sean has contacted the owners of the land, the county council, and informed them that they should have told her from the outset of their intention to sell. They have then formally replied to her saying they intend to sell, and from the time of receipt of that, the clock begins ticking. So we have now 6 weeks in which, or anybody has 6 weeks in which to declare an interest in that and declare that we wish to make some kind of bid for it. Thereafter, if a bid comes in, we then have 6 months in which to raise the funding in order to try and purchase before the opportunity is gone. So what I'm going to propose at this stage is that the Town Council does make a formal representation that we wish to declare an interest in Fletton Field on behalf of the town, that will start the process running. Do I have a seconder for that, please? Councillor Chappell? And all those in favour, please? And anybody against? And abstentions? Because you've got to declare an interest. Fine. So we will now formally notify East Northants, the monitoring officer, that we wish to declare an interest in that, and may well in time try to put together some sort of bid. But at least now things are in a state of holding.
Good.
Okay? Everybody happy with that? 21102, to discuss the future of the Oundle neighbourhood plan in relation to the local plan. In a meeting last week with East Northants District Council planning officers, they confirmed that some time ago they told us that their local plan was in danger of overtaking the town's neighbourhood plan unless we got a move on with it. I wasn't aware of this until last week, that we'd had this notification, but apparently it was about 18 months ago. They actually said that they would delay the district local plan to give us a chance to progress our plan so that we stay one step ahead of them. They are concerned, what they've asked us is, are we intending to complete our neighbourhood plan? If not, they need to make provisions in the district plan to cover for the various aspects of the neighbourhood plan within Oundle. And they are happy to run a two-tier process where they allow us to carry on with our neighbourhood plan, but we also have meetings with them so that we're helping them to prepare the local plan at the same time, in parallel, just in case anything should happen and we have any further delays. Do I have any comments on that?
Yeah. I think it sounds like ENC have been very nice to us. Supportive.
I don't know when we were notified that time scales were tight, but I think it's important that we get our neighbourhood plan out.
Yeah.
It's important to the town that we have a neighbourhood plan, that we beat the deadline, as it were. We get our plan complete. We need to go to referendum this year. If we don't, the local plan will overtake us. I think it's all hands to the pumps. We've got a meeting with the working group members, the old working group, on Thursday evening to see what we can pull together to finalise any bits of the plan that are outstanding. And we need, around this table, we need to do everything we can, I think, to make sure that the town gets the neighbourhood plan that it deserves. Any comments on that? Councillor Fuller.
Totally agree. We've got to get a move on, get this done. As we've spent a lot of time on it so far.
And we're going to spend a lot of time tonight going through getting the draft. I will take a comment from Neil Fraser.
Thank you, Councillor Sparks. Just looking at the local development plan timeframe from East Northants, publication of the draft plan and consultation, which would normally come out to parish councils,
Yes.
was set for August through October last year.
Yes.
Has the council seen that draft plan and been consulted upon it?
They're working on that draft plan at the moment.
So
this is what they've said.
So their timescale has slipped considerably then?
They have delayed, and they're saying some of that delay, one of the reasons for that delay is to give us time to get our neighbourhood plan in ahead of it. Because I think once their plan is in, the shutter comes down, as it were.
But their plan is out for, should have been out for consultation October last year for submission having gone through the consultation process in February of this year, as in now.
Yes.
So unless you've, do we have any idea when their submission is out for consultation?
We don't. We're
No.
working on it with them at the moment.
Yeah.
We've had
Okay, because the whole time frame is going to slip by X number of months.
their time frame has slipped. Yes.
And the adoption is not until spring 2019.
Yes.
So hopefully,
Yes.
if it all kind of dovetails, it should be.
Yeah. We have a window, and we mustn't miss it, is what they're saying to us at the moment. We mustn't miss that window.
Sorry about that, but I just wasn't
Yeah.
sure that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right to clarify that point, and thank you for reminding us of those dates. They've had meetings with our district councillors, and they put a lot of information into the local plan, having consulted them. They then came to a meeting with us, and there were a number of councillors present at that meeting, and the clerk, and we filled in a lot more detail on what plans we've got for Oundle that they need to be considering in a local plan, with or without a neighbourhood plan. And so that's the stage they're at the moment. They're still information gathering. So their whole timetable has slipped badly. But that's to our advantage. We need now to seize the opportunity and work with all haste to get our neighbourhood plan completed. And one thing we really must do, and if we don't do it tonight, and I don't think we can tonight, but certainly next Tuesday we have a neighbourhood plan meeting, and we need at that meeting to get some dates down for the Regulation 14 events, and get a timetable out so that things are on the table. Once we've got Regulation 14 underway, our plan has a lot more credibility, which means that it is, from that point, it has some credibility as a document, and they will give it some regard when looking at planning applications. As we are at the moment, we have nothing on the table formally, so it's important for the town that we move on this with all haste. If I propose that we let East Northants know that we intend to go ahead with our neighbourhood plan with all haste, and do I have a seconder to? I'll take it.
Sorry,
From Paul.
just to ask, does each section, like section 14, 15, 16, have a length of time that it needs to run for?
Yes.
Okay. So
Yeah.
what's the time on section 14?
Section 14 is a public consultation by us. We go out to the public for a minimum of 6 weeks. So if we were to start it mid-March, we would be running through April. So it might be that in order to get all the loose ends tied up, we might go April and part of May perhaps. It might be more sensible. We then need to take all the comments from that period and what we're gathering now, because we're gathering comments from the various meetings we've had now, and we're putting all that together. Those comments, we've got time then to put those into the plan, anything that changes the plan, and the plan must then be re-agreed by council. It will then be submitted to East Northants. They will have a look at it. If they're happy with it, they will then pass it to the inspectors. Those inspectors will then come back, they will then hold a consultation period, and that again is a minimum of 6 weeks. The big time delay might be getting hold of an inspector, because the more neighbourhood plans there are, and they seem to be expanding exponentially, the number of them, the more there are, and there's only a finite number of people who can do the inspections, the longer the delay before you get an inspector. But then they need to...
you to find an inspector, or is one appointed? Or...
East Northants will find an inspector. They will take care of that. And they then have 6 weeks of consultation with the public again, where they will be asking, have we consulted the public? and have we taken on board the public's views? And they will go through and talk to the public, and it's another chance for the public to have their say. And at the end of that, they will then give their verdict on whether they are happy for the plan to proceed. They may suggest modifications. It may go back to them with those mods so that they see they've been done. And then, after they're happy with it, and if and only if they approve it, it then goes back to the town, hopefully at the end of this year, for a referendum. That will be a full ballot, just like a by-election or full election, at which the town will get to vote. 2 polling stations, a proper election. And everybody will get to vote. That will be, dare I say it, similar to Brexit in that it will be a yes-no. It won't be a case of, we like this particular scheme but not that one. We don't want houses there but we want houses there. You do that bit now, because when it gets to the referendum, that will be a straight yes-no for the whole plan. Yes, we want it, or no, we don't. If we say yes to it at the referendum, and I think it's a simple majority at that stage, then it becomes a document, along with certain other ones, that the planning authorities have got to take into consideration when they're looking at planning applications for Oundle. They have to take that document into account, and without it, we can be bypassed. And the documents that make up their sort of consultation are the North Northamptonshire Joint Core Strategy, the East Northamptonshire Local Plan, which, as we say, they're now constructing, the Northamptonshire Minerals and Waste Local Plan, and the Oundle Neighbourhood Plan.
Okay.
So we need to make sure our plan is in there
Yeah.
for that consultation. Whenever anything is considered for planning applications within our town, those documents are on the table and the wishes of our residents are being considered.
Okay. So once section 14 is complete, incorporated into the plan,
Yes,
it's out of your hands really, isn't it? It's off for, it's in other people's hands then?
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So that's the bit we
Yeah.
really need to...
It may come back to us to make mods,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, hopefully it's then on its way through a process that will result in you all having a referendum towards the end of the year. If you say yes to it, we've got a plan. If we say no as a town to that referendum, then we haven't got a neighbourhood plan. And then the developers and anybody else has a free hand then to do whatever they like, to put in planning applications willy-nilly.
Okay.
Does that explain that?
Yeah, great.
Okay, so I propose that we should have a neighbourhood plan and that we progress with all speed. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Fuller. Those in favour, please. And that's unanimous. Thank you. So I think that's really all we can do on that particular item tonight. We now come on to the long boring item, 21101, to review the neighbourhood plan and approve the amendments. What's happened there is we approved the neighbourhood plan in council and we went through, I think, line by line, word by word of the version that's on the table here from March of last year. This happened in June, beginning of June last year, shortly after I took over as mayor. We went through the plan line by line and we approved the document as it stood at that time, knowing that there were some additions and amendments to be made. We've now had a series of amendments. We engaged a consultant who's done a lot of work for us. We've had other volunteers helping with things like green spaces, which are being incorporated in as we speak. And we've got a plan, but the consultant has changed the sort of design and the look and the feel of it so it looks like a completely different document. And the thing that worried me a bit was some of the words we've used when we've been consulting with other parties. For example, in discussions we've had with developers about what we're looking for on their sites and what's been tentatively agreed, provisionally agreed with them, and also conversations we've had with our neighbours, such as Glapthorne, where we've talked about what's called coalescence, that is cross-border issues. We don't want them building on our borders, they don't want us building on their borders. That whole issue, the wording of that has changed, and its position in the plan has changed as well, in that we had it as an appendix because we shouldn't be covering in the plan itself any comments about things outside our boundary. We can only comment on things within our parish. So we had an appendix where we'd agreed a form of words with our neighbours to say that we didn't want to encroach on them and we didn't want them to encroach on us, and they said something similar but not identical in their plans. Now, because that's changed, that's one of the items tonight that we need to go through and make sure that we're still happy, that we're covered, that everybody's happy with those wordings, and that we take this new plan forward. So that's where we are with this. I think if I go straight into that, unless you want to direct me to any of these other documents.
No, because I think it may be worth, because a lot of the other people haven't seen them, they may want to read them before we then use them in here.
Right.
Otherwise you'll be sitting and reading something for half an hour
Yes.
to then decide whether you're going to...
Yeah.
And I don't know.
I think what we'll do, I know one of our number, because of being away, has perhaps not had a chance to go through the plan in any great detail.
Very quickly. Very quickly.
But I think the rest of us have had this for a while, in one form or another. So I'm going to take it that you've seen and read the plan. What I'm going to do is go through the plan page by page, section by section, and look at what's changed. But I think the main areas we must concentrate on tonight, I think you're wise to go, it's going to be a very long, boring, long and boring session. But what we need to concentrate on is that we've got the right maps, and we've got the best maps of the options that we've got, because we've chopped and changed them once or twice, that we understand the maps we've got, the same with any aerial photos, the same with views and photos, the same with forms of words relating to specific sites. So I think what we need to do is to go through the plan. The first thing you'll notice is that at the very beginning of the plan, we've now got a contents,
Yeah,
which makes it look completely different, but I think that is actually quite helpful. Do I have any comments on the contents pages?
good idea.
I think it simplifies finding anything. And the next, that brings us on to page 4, which is how the neighbourhood plan is organised, and it goes through the sections, which again is quite useful. I think, anybody got any comments on that?
No, happy with that.
Smashing. And then we go through the introduction of what is a plan, and the area of the plan and the plan period. Are we happy with all of that? We've got some detail highlighted here. We need to perhaps check that figure 1 is figure 1, and it does refer to the to that section. And figure 1 follows then on page 6.
We've got a better version of that.
We've now got a better version of that map.
That's what was sent through from East Northants.
Right. Yes, we've discovered that they had some maps when they came to talk about the local plan. They had the maps we've been asking for a very long while, and they said they couldn't produce, they hadn't got, couldn't produce, and would we go to Land Registry, who also at one stage denied all knowledge of Oundle, basically. So, we've now got some better maps coming.
Good.
So we've got a better one to replace that.
Well, it's,
Anything on page 6, therefore, that anybody has any problems with?
No.
And then we move on to page 7, which refers to the documents I showed a few minutes ago.
talks about the plan and the local plan. Makes sense.
Yeah. And then it comes on to sustainability appraisal, strategic environmental assessment, habitat regulations assessment. I've struggled to find anybody to do those for us. I've spoken to Transition Oundle. They don't feel it's something they can do. I've spoken to various other groups who don't feel it's their bag either. However, quite a few people have come back saying, do we really need it? Talking to Phil Stern, he's had a word with Mike, I keep forgetting his name, Mike Burton, in planning. And Mike Burton feels that we've got nothing major. I think the only habitat regulation that we've got to assess is Snipe Meadow. Apart from that, we haven't got any preserved newts or any wildflowers or anything that needs protecting, as far as I'm aware.
What about the SSI down at the river?
If that's in our parish, we perhaps need to check that one with Mike
Check
Burton.
it,
Yeah, because it might be, if we've got one or two of these things, that we might, yeah.
Well, I remember when I was trying to look into this a long time ago, it's quite difficult to actually establish whether there really was an SSI, where I think most of us think there is one, which is sort of, if you like, take site 23, keep going right down to the bottom of it and beyond.
Yes,
So that stretch between the end of site 23 and the river,
yes.
I thought was an
Was an
SSI,
SSI,
but
yeah.
I haven't actually found anything to fundamentally establish it. And quite
Certainly-
right, just not be looking.
Certainly influenced our thinking over the years.
Yeah. Well, the person who would probably know is, or should know, is Mike Burton at
Yeah.
ENC. He's the man with the documents and all the information, so he should know what's out there. His view was, when talking to us, talking to Phil, who was working with us some long time ago now, months ago, wasn't it? Back in last summer, we were looking at putting all of this work into a statement to say that we didn't need SEA and HRA in any great depth. We hope we don't need it, because talking to the head of ENC's planning, Paul Bland, he first of all suggested that it might well cost us 20,000 to have the thing done professionally. He then went on to say, well, if you're a fairly small one, you might get away with 10k. Neither of which we've really got or can afford, or really want. They obviously sound like very, very big specialist documents prepared by other bodies. They're going to take time. It's going to slow everything up, which is the last thing we want right now. So if Mike Burton is able to assure us that we don't have to do that, it's going to save us a lot of time, a lot of money. So we're in the hands of Mike Burton there, I think, to advise us.
I think we should check.
Yeah, he's following that through. And we'll perhaps check with him to see where we are with that. Anything else on that page then, on page 7?
Councillor Sparks,
Yep.
sorry, the SEA, HRA, etc., they have been done to the point that up to which we needed to do them, and they were completed 18 months, 2 years ago. They were sent to they were partly evidence-based. They were sent to the consultant a short while ago by myself
Yes.
and to yourselves. They're a self-assessment document which identifies the areas or the issues that might present themselves to any neighbourhood plan.
Right.
And it's a simple checkbox exercise that has been completed, and those documents are there.
Right.
What
I think-
hasn't been done
Yeah.
is the additional little bit of work in relative terms to incorporate, because the policies within the neighbourhood plan weren't formulated at the time we did the initial assessment.
Right.
Those policies needed to be just numbered
Right.
and added into the assessments.
Right.
And that would have been ideally placed within the consultant's arena, because
Right.
he's the most familiar with those policy numbers.
Right.
So it's how the policies relate to any aspects of the HRA, SEA. But it's been done as a self-assessment, which Mike's quite right. There aren't issues within the neighbourhood plan that need to be further investigated at this stage by the neighbourhood plan. If ENC changes the local plan and further EA work is done to perhaps improve or heighten the floodplain area and the general river environment category, then that would need to be factored into the plan at a much later date when it was evident.
Right.
But those documents are there for incorporation into it, because I didn't, and you've got them.
Yeah, well, Mike Burton's had them
Well, that's good.
and came back with a series of things that we needed to do on it,
Right.
and that is where it is. But our consultant is not, he's not going to do them, is he?
No. No, he says he's not able to do
No.
that. No.
Okay.
So that's what we need somebody, and I think Phil was going to at some point pick them up, but then now Phil has now spoken to Mike Burton, and it may be that we don't have to.
I think the important thing is that we've done the self-assessment process
Yes.
and identified the potential risks at this stage within that self-assessment.
Yeah.
On the basis of the proposals that we have. And if our proposals don't have an impact upon those areas that are already known, then we don't have a risk. I don't think I've seen, forgive me if I haven't read it, anything that's come back from ENC or Mike relative to those documents. Bang across.
Have you seen the one that Mike Burton's?
No.
Right, I'll perhaps send that to you then. Then you can perhaps have a look and see. You might be able to answer some of the questions that he's put on it.
Yeah. Yeah, that could be useful if you could tie that work up with if it's already done.
Yeah, let me give you something that there isn't a major risk at all.
Right.
Just need a few, in my
Yeah.
opinion, a few policies identified. So, sorry, I'll be quiet.
Yeah. No, that's very helpful. No, it's very useful because I think what you've got is the evidence base behind the form that Mike Burton is going to complete with us that says that there is nothing major there and that we've looked and we've got the proof that we've looked and assessed it. So that's brilliant. So we'll liaise with you on that one, Neil, and tighten that up. The next page 8 is the evidence base, community engagement and consultation. Is there anything on that page at all that we need to change? I think it's further on where we've got the main changes coming up. So I'll move swiftly on.
Sorry,
About Oundle is page 9, and if we're happy with what's written there,
Yeah, that's very good.
Yeah.
we'll move forward.
Come down there.
Yeah. Page 9, yes? Happy.
You're happy with page 9? Right, page 10 is a follow-on from that, with population and demographic information. Table 1 is there, as is table 2.
That's interesting.
I can't see a cross-reference to table 2 highlighted, but table 1 is highlighted in yellow in the document. Councillor Hutton,
Just
yeah.
one point in terms of, I've been doing a little bit of work on the
Design statement.
design statement, thank you.
Yeah.
For what it's called. just need to make sure the numbers tie up, because the design statement talks about current population of about 6,500, and I have updated it with the 2011 census, which was 6,000. So it was 6,000 in 2011, and the suggestion, not from me, but no reason to disagree with it, is that it's around 6,500 now. So,
Right.
So maybe we just need to decide whether we're going to say it's 6 or 6.5.
Which do we like best?
But be consistent either way. 6
I think isn't it 6.5 when the pupils from Arundel School are here, but it is down. That's what it's. That's.
There's about 1,500 of them, aren't there?
Well, 900 boarders.
I was going to say, as it's about 800. If you go on the internet and look at the 2011 census, it looks about 850 pupils living here. Yeah, and then
I don't mind which one we use, we just need to...
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right to point it out.
5,745.
Yeah. Because somebody will point
Because
that
I looked at
out
it
to us.
today, that was all, because
Yeah.
somebody asked me.
So why don't you say 6,500, because that's the maximum number it's going to be.
I would actually,
Leave it at that, sorry.
I would actually disagree, because the moment you do that, you're going into a marginally speculative figure, whereas there is a figure published in the census, we can refer to it. The fact that it's 6-7 years out of date doesn't really matter, because it's the most recent census. And I think it's easier to just go off the census figures, which is what is quoted in here, and I think it probably, if we need to alter anything, we should alter the design statement to tie in with this.
Yeah, okay, fine.
Would you like me to confirm it?
I would love you to confirm it, Emma, that would be
Right,
great.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll see whatever number you took.
Yeah. Yes, I
Right,
think
we
it's...
have a figure of 5,735.
Yes,
Yeah.
probably 6,000.
That was in 2011. Now I'm just trying to see the part where I saw.
There's obviously been a baby boom.
I did click on something that then said it goes up to 850 students. Yeah, here it is. So no, actually, this is slightly different. Population of 5,745. In Arundel School term time, this rises by 850 to 6,595.
So 6,500
including school population.
Well, let's go with the census figures, and then if we always do that, then
If we're consistent with that.
we're consistent.
Is everybody happy with that?
So it's 6,500 now, not 6,000.
Well, it's 6,595, including pupils.
Yeah.
But what was the census figure?
5,745.
So approximately something.
Approximately 6,000.
Yeah.
Just
It's-
spent hours discussing
I
it.
know.
Approximately 6,000, I think sounds reasonable.
If you're going to get really picky, at 2.6, it does actually say 5,735 rather than 45.
Yes,
but
I know,
Perhaps
I've-
we should alter that.
Yeah, I've just put 4 on it, actually.
10 people might be critical.
So approximately 6,000 is fine.
Well, that's been quite a few houses.
Rounding up. Rounding up.
Right. Are we happy with that then? We're happy that we've got a figure we're all agreed on?
Yes.
Right, okay.
So it should be table 1 and table 2, shouldn't it?
Well, table 1 is highlighted. I can't see table 2 highlighted.
at the bottom of paragraph 2.8.
Well, I see
Oh,
table
yeah.
2.
Ah, yes. See table 2. Yes, it's not highlighted, but
Ian's proving he's ready.
yeah.
Councillors.
Yeah, it is the right table, it's in the right place, so I think that's all in order. But at some stage we're going to have to take these yellow highlighting bits
Yeah.
out once we've established that they are in the right place and it's the right table referring to the, or figure referring to the correct paragraph. We then move on to the two tables then on page 11 and employment. Are we happy with everything that's there? And then we move on page 12 with Councillor Chapman.
Unfortunately, within the employment bit, I would marginally take issue with it. It talks about two employment areas, and it refers to the one that is in Barnwell, and it refers to the business park. What it fails to mention is that arguably maybe we should be talking about a wharf area as a business area, because there are businesses of different types down there. They've all emerged within recent years.
This is old stuff that's been...
Exactly, and I think it should be updated by a reference in fact to that, so that instead of talking about is served by two main commercial areas, I'd argue it's served by three main commercial areas, and it should refer to the wharf in here as well.
Yes. One of these other documents that you've got in that big pile actually talks about 3 commercial areas, so that would explain where the third one comes from. So I think it's got to be consistent.
I don't think Fairline boats aren't here anymore. Not in Arnold anyway, they're in Corby now.
They still have a place. Yep. Now they're here and they've been recruiting apparently, so...
They've got some Russian billionaires in charge.
Yeah, I know about the Russian billionaires. My wife.
So they're doing all right.
I mean, the whole of East Road is technically what we have always regarded as our business area.
Yes, yeah.
Which
And
is
that's
not mentioned here at
mentioned
all.
in there either.
It's
I was gonna say,
And if you go back,
it's mentioned
back to the RNOTP, there was policies in there about maintaining East Road as a business
Yes.
Yeah, we
area.
have to put
Yes.
that in.
So
It's gotta be
arguably
there.
we should maybe I'm talking myself out of it, maybe we should be saying there are 4 main
Yes.
areas.
It is they're both mentioned in the last sentence of 2.10, but it is only a brief mention.
No, it needs to talk about it.
You can't start the thing with 2 main, I mean, because they're
Well, the
not...
biggest one is that one.
I mean,
If the
the
water
marina,
mentioned.
apart from anything else, isn't really nice.
Yeah. We're talking about them being other smaller areas. I think does them and the town a disservice.
I do.
Yes. Yes, I think so.
I agree, as I'm one of them.
Yeah, yes.
You could have.
Yeah, there's a major carpet manufacturer down there.
National. There are actually 6. Because if you count the courthouse, if you count that bit that you've just mentioned where the old carpets were, Saltner, then you've got the other bit, then you've got the bit by the wharf, and then you've got the marina, and then you've got the bits mentioned there. It depends on how narrow you want to take this.
Yeah.
But if it's commercial rather than shops, we do have more than what it says there.
Yeah.
It just depends how narrow you want to take it, whether you want to include that area where Saltner is.
Yeah.
And we've got, and there's also the, what's his name, Councillor Elliott with his swimming pools, working from the council offices.
Yeah,
Yes.
but it isn't manufacturing.
No.
Is that what we're talking about from a commercial
Yeah,
area,
yeah.
not just offices?
Yeah.
You could kind of argue that the whole stretch from the courthouse back down West Street through to the marketplace and up New Street is kind of the town centre-ish.
Yes, so if you're saying that, I agree.
And it goes marginally beyond the town centre is defined in here, but it's...
Yes, I mean, we've got small start-up businesses in the courthouse, but they're more akin, I think, to town centre retail.
I don't
than-
know how you
Yeah,
colour them
yeah.
as commercial or not. So,
Yeah.
so we're up to 5 and 4.
Marina.
The marine side.
So,
Are we carrying silver?
The marina is actually technically not within our parish, is it? But no.
But it's literally. I mean, we have to include
well,
it.
yes, but you could put it in, but I don't think it's our most important.
No, it's another one of these, a bit like housing development immediately outside your boundary, where it's
Yes.
coalescence again, really. It's one of our neighbours who's building on our boundary. I think we've got to recognise it, but we've got to be careful how we...
How we describe it.
Yeah, but it's obviously key to the town, so the marina is key to the town.
It is called Marina.
It does say it's served by 2 main areas at the same time.
Yeah. So if we need to advise the clerk on wording there so that we get the right wording in that bit, does anybody want
has
to?
changed a lot, I think that's worth noting.
But that's mostly retail, isn't it?
Brewing?
Just the one. Yeah,
Business, brewing, baking. And baking.
that's retail.
They bake.
It's predominantly retail, isn't it?
But East Roads,
I think
Yeah.
we
But
probably
then
need
it's
to
under a heading called
write that.
employment covers employment in the retail sector.
Yes, yes. Yeah, we had that. We were going to combine the employment, commercial and education along with town centre and retail, our two objectives in the old original plan. You and I, Councillor Chappell, were looking at combining those because there were so many areas of overlap that we felt we ought to try and write the two into one at one stage.
There's quite a lot of overlap in these words between the design statement and this document. So would you like me to volunteer to provide Emma with some words?
Yes? Excellent. That's brilliant. That's excellent. Yes.
Let's go.
Next one.
Education, qualifications and occupations. Is everybody happy with those?
Is it worth mentioning the sports 215, what Anne was going to do with the sports expansion, as you mentioned, it's like 20%?
I think that appears in another section
Well, it
further
does,
on, but
it's one of the queries I've got about this, because there's a policy in this document which seems to me to have been overtaken by events in terms of what's gone on with the developments and the planning applications that have already gone through. And I tend to agree with Councillor Fuller, actually, that maybe one way of dealing with it is to refer within this section, at least to make some reference to the sort of sports master plan.
That's huge, isn't it? That's got a big impact. It's a lot of building.
Because it talks about it, he's now embarking on a major sci-tech campus development. Well, you know,
we're more than embarking, we're well into it.
it is almost as complete as it's potentially likely to be. I know there's an extra phase planned at one stage.
Is that Ronnie's lecture
Yeah.
theatre?
Lecture theatre,
Yeah, Ronnie's lecture theatre.
hasn't for a while.
It's not going to happen, is it? Forever in my lifetime. So I think the swimming pool needs, the
I think
sports
215 just needs some.
Yeah, 215 is not.
If you're going to be totally accurate, and that's the point of this thing, isn't it?
It has embarked.
Very exciting. 50.
So is somebody going to advise on the wording there?
I just think
Councillor Hutton's taken up one, I'll take up this one.
Right, jolly good.
that's what I mean.
Do you know?
I've no idea what they're doing.
Ask that gentleman there, he'll tell you all about it.
Well, he knows now. He's inside.
And you see we've got two councils.
You've got it inside now. That's me.
So are we happy now with page 12?
Yeah.
Page 13. Are we happy with page 13?
Yeah.
Services and facilities we come on to then. I think there's been some work done on the Fletton Way bit of that.
I just wonder why Tesco's isn't mentioned. Do we not like Tesco's?
I suppose you want to get some of the medium-sized supermarkets. It's a
It's
small-sized
only a small
supermarket.
It's a supermarket. It's obviously.
It's
Yeah.
a convenience store.
Oh, that's true. So
It's a
that's
Tesco
not
Express,
so-
isn't it?
So if they're going to be so small, we don't mention them.
That's right. Shiny Tesco.
Yeah, if they want to plan more investment in the town, make it bigger.
If you include
We may
them,
not
you then
have two
upset.
banks by the time this comes
Yeah,
up. then.
yeah, we might have to change a bit about banks, yeah.
We'll only have one back.
If you include Tesco, you've probably then got to talk about Boots, because they're,
Well, that's the whole point.
Yeah,
We want to
you-
keep it small.
it's where you draw the line,
To
isn't
be
it?
regarded as small, so
Yeah.
there's no point calling them anything else.
Don't
Yeah.
mention any coffee shops. Sorry, that's a joke.
Can we get any more in?
They're multi-storey coffee shops.
Yeah.
We don't want any competition with that.
No. So, right, if everybody's happy with 13, we move on to 14, travel patterns. Is everybody happy with that?
Are we still keeping both the buses then?
I think so. Oh, a gritter went down New Road today.
Where?
That is major news.
Like on the plan?
No, I just thought
It's amazing you can get down there.
it's the first time I've seen a gritter down there.
Yes, as far as I know, both the X4 and 24 are staying.
Still staying.
Yep, it's the Call Connect service
yeah.
that
That's
is
a
likely
real
to
shame.
be...
I think that's a really useful service.
That's a very good service.
I would hate to see that go. But it's going.
Call Connect.
Terribly costly.
The purple thing.
Yeah,
It's very
Yeah.
costly.
yeah.
Sometimes cost doesn't really come into it.
Yes,
It's about health, it's about.
Yeah.
We were lucky with the bus services.
It's heavily subsidised from various sources, and as well as the county, it's also, they had big subsidies which have possibly run out by now from Waitrose. They put a bit of money into Call Connect at one stage.
Unless we go back to Waitrose and see if they're willing to do bus service to get people to
Okay.
Waitrose. Well,
Rich, does co-op get its free bus service mentioned, or is that outside the realm of...
no, we haven't got that, and it'd be an idea to replace it with something like that.
Whether that should be involved in here, the one that runs from Luton, is it into town, bringing people in from outside.
Is that what happens? Is there a bus that does that?
Yeah, every Thursday.
Or
Yeah,
should it be?
2 buses at the moment.
Well, it's to do with travel plans.
Yeah, but it's not a major.
Depends how thoroughly you want this to be, though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I've got still be running 2031. Co-op might still be
This probably covers the major services. I think if we're happy
If you
with
haven't got
that.
Tesco's in there, you can leave that much.
Yeah. Okay.
Is that a deal?
14 is done then. If we're happy.
You see when you have shares in it.
It's just where we're getting the fire.
Housing and tenure mix.
Is this from the census?
Page 15. It's a very good question where he's got that from.
Probably from the census, it must be.
There was a separate ENC study on housing from the living nursing. That's what it sits in one of my filing cabinets at home. I suspect that's what he's actually been looking at.
It says at the start on page 9, the percentage figures referred to in this section are derived from the 2011 census.
Oh,
That's
so
otherwise
right.
specified, so since these aren't otherwise specified, that's from the census.
Yeah, that's good because then everything's coming from one source and we're consistent throughout. So if we're happy with those, I don't think we've got any reason to question those, have we?
Well, apart from it's a pity that social rented houses aren't more readily available in Arundel.
Or terraced houses.
Or terrace houses.
I mean, I keep looking at these.
Can we, in broader terms, for
Yeah.
a newbie, can we put in the plan something about social rented houses or something?
Affordable housing.
Yeah, demand percentages.
We've got that somewhere else, haven't we?
There is, yeah.
There somewhere around it.
Yeah. Under the, when we get on to the various housing bits, I think there is a government suggestion, and I don't think it's much more than a suggestion. I think all the district councils are struggling to comply with it. I think they've got a figure of 40% of all new major developments will be affordable housing. Now, even when you've got a complete new build on a greenfield site at Tresham Garden Village, as we saw, they're talking about 30%, and they think they're doing really well to get up as high as 30%. 20% of that is conventional affordable housing, with another 10% of some other schemes that they're bringing in, new schemes they're introducing, to get up to 30%. If they can only achieve that, I think for us to achieve anything like that is going to be difficult, where you've got an established town. It's very difficult to know where you put affordable housing sometimes. Some of the sites, some of the developers are keen to have it, and some would prefer not to have it.
So there's affordable houses don't mean social houses.
No.
They mean affordable houses, which means part ownership and things like that. That's not the same as social houses.
No.
Sorry?
Talk about
We need
this.
more 2 on 2 down.
We probably do, yeah. But we need
Whole
to,
road terrace.
we need to have them as a social housing as opposed
Does it
to.
get on with the plan rather than
Sorry, we're
having an argument?
going off about that now.
Well, we'll be coming on to it later. It comes up again later, but if we're happy with what's on page 15, we'll move forward.
Yes.
Because I'm conscious of the fact we're doing the easy pages. We've got the hard yards to go yet. Councillor Chapel, were you?
I'm getting ready to raise my hand.
Right,
Raise
right.
The next one.
The biro was up. I was.
It was a false start.
Let's turn to page 16 first.
Page 16 then. Historic environment, the natural environment and landscape character. Councillor Chapel.
One, in the historic environment, in reference to the conservation area, I think it would be helpful if there was a figure, a plan inside this document showing the extent of the conservation area specifically.
I think so too, I agree.
But I think the logical place to put it,
Yes,
or put one, is underneath there, when
Yes.
you first talk about it.
yes,
And
absolutely.
So if we could just slip one in.
Isn't that figure something?
I thought we did have one in there somewhere.
Whether it should be there or in two places, but it just seems to me that when
Probably
you mention
in
it,
the plan somewhere.
it would be a good idea to actually have it in front of you when you're looking at that page.
No, I
It's on
think that-
page 29 maybe? It's figure, hasn't got a figure. It's under, it is page 29. So it hasn't got a figure, so that needs to go in
Right.
at that point. It's a good point.
Yeah.
The second thing, and it harks back to what we were talking about a few minutes ago. In 2.32, it says the nearest sites of special scientific interest are located outside of the parish. Da, 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 da. But Councillor Chesser and I both think that actually that area of land that I described is, or certainly was, an SSI. Now, whether it has ceased to be one somewhere along the line, I don't know.
No,
But I think we just need to double check as to whether it is, because if it is, it ought to be referred to in that
Yeah.
section.
I came across something recently where a swap had been done, so that could have been, I don't know how you swap
No, I don't.
something that's as special as an SSI,
No.
because it has to conform with certain characteristics, but it's worth checking, because I've got a feeling it was swapped.
Yeah. Right. Okay. The clerk has made a note of that. That's page 16, if everybody's happy. Page 17, key issues.
Yep.
And our vision and objectives. Are we happy with our vision and objective?
It needs a bit of formatting because it looks a bit rubbish. The fur is cut off, isn't it, at the bottom, all the top?
Yeah. And I don't know whether your copy does what mine does.
What, the vision?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
I've
Because
looked
mine
at
actually
that.
says-
I'll go in, I think it needs,
It's a job to finish, it's a job.
And a log to visit.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it should say joy, but it looks like log. Somehow it's
Looks a
cut
bit
off.
like Russian, doesn't
what
it?
have you got? Well, I've got it's
Yeah.
online, it's
IOV.
IOV, and I was
Yeah.
trying to just sitting here trying to work out what that was.
Yeah, it is
Which
IOV on this one, yes. Yes, it's
I
chopped
thought-
off.
It's
Oh,
just,
it could be joy. Yeah, I
Tails have got
thought it was love.
Should we just remove that bit, A and IOV?
no, it's joy to visit.
Is it supposed to be joy?
So
It's joy. It's the word joy.
Whoever's done it, just made it so that the paragraphs, the lines are very...
Oh, right, yeah,
It was
right.
former Councillor King.
The box wants to be a
I'll have it
touch
after
bigger
the
and,
box.
yeah. Yes, that's one
It's
of
a
his
formula.
Argued over things.
expressions, yes.
So you don't want to print it out like that, because that's going to
No.
come off.
Yes, it is. That,
See the bottom of the G.
Constellation.
Yeah,
It's back, you see here,
yes,
the bottom of that G is also...
it is also missing, yes, it
No, it's
is,
just the whole thing needs a bit of
Yeah.
performance, that's all.
yeah, and the being in the second line, the whole thing is crammed, yeah. So with those amendments, is everybody happy with 17?
Yes.
Moving swiftly on, we then come on to page 18 where we've got some,
Sorry, bad formatting.
Yes.
So, this needs, the person doing this needs to just,
I've just sorted that.
yeah,
That's just
it's just formatting.
You've done it, have you?
It's
Yeah.
not a problem, but it just looks rubbish. Apart from it does look all right.
Right.
is the content, albeit that the clerk is sorting the formatting, is the
Well, I've
content
just
correct?
done page 17, so that you can now read that. It
Right.
does say joy
Good,
and not IR.
But we
Right.
need the bottoms on the Gs too.
Yeah, all it needed was the box expanding, and then you can see all the
Yeah.
and
words.
they all fit in.
They'll fit in, yeah.
Okay, page 18 then, are we happy with content, albeit that the layout is in need of some work?
There's a couple of hard returns that you need to sort out as well, we put in. So, that's just for someone to sort it out. It looks good or not, but yeah, it's reasonable.
Right, and there's a couple of
It's
lines.
nice actually, I do like this. I think it's trying to spell out in a nice way.
Mm.
Once it's sorted, basically what we said earlier, isn't it?
I just do wonder whether you couldn't have the headings and then points underneath them just bullet pointed and then another heading and so on that just fill the page up rather than this which...
I like the boxes because they're different colours for different things.
Why don't we just have a
I don't
map?
like them. I think you look at it and you just actually, I would be just tempted to turn
I
the
think
page.
if the wording is sorted out inside the box,
Mm.
so it looks a bit neater.
To be honest, if you're going to do that and you're going to colour it, you need to do it properly.
Mm.
And in reality, what you really should do is have it depends on that, but these boxes should have a shade.
Would you like me to send this to you in Word
Yeah,
format?
I mean, it's in Word, that's the trouble. You want to do a better job than that.
And you can, I don't know who did this. I don't think Mike did this.
No.
This was already in there.
I think this was.
So I don't know who did this.
I think this was Councillor Paul King when he was. It probably has come from his first draft of the neighbourhood
I like
plan.
the
I
colours.
think.
I think colours what we need
No.
in this document.
No,
So
it's
we didn't do everything wrong then? So that's not so bad.
Well, I'll have a fiddle
Apart from
around.
the shapes and the colours.
It was the previous consultant.
Yeah, if you want to send it to me, I'll colour it.
James Wilson. I think
Okay.
it's James
If you're not
Wilson
happy
did
with
it.
it,
Okay.
Yeah,
you've
I'll,
got some.
We'll send that to Councillor Fuller, who will do a bit of graphic design on there and get the text alignment and everything sorted, and the shading in the boxes. Okay, are you happy with that, Councillor Fuller?
Yeah, it's just when you've got some graphics you want them to look like.
Yeah.
Councillor
Smashing.
Fuller, have you got on your pad there, it's in colour? You have, oh yes, you have when you turn it around.
Right.
No, okay, yeah.
So Councillor Fuller's going to take care of page 18. We move on. What do we think of page 19 then? And we're a third of the way through.
That was easy bit.
It's just a statement of facts again, isn't it, really? That sounds fine to me.
Yeah, it's a summary, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Does that need
No.
any graphic enhancement or anything? No, you're perfectly happy with that one.
Conformity.
Do it red, white and blue if you like, just to be on the safe side.
So,
Okay, if we're happy with 19, we'll move on. Neighbourhood plan, policies and proposals. Now we're getting more into the meat of it now. We've got a page reference here, highlighted in yellow with no page number following it, so I don't know where
that's
that...
for the policies map, which Mark Benz is currently doing, I think.
Right,
Because it says also includes a policies map, and says it's on the page, but
Yeah.
that's being worked on.
so as soon as we get the map, we can
Yeah.
stick that
That
page
map
in.
will be on that
are
page.
these the new maps that we were excited about?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, this is one of the new maps we're excited about, yeah.
That's all right.
And then the page numbers will probably all move round again, and we'll have
Yeah,
to
they probably will.
do some more realignment of page numbers, unfortunately.
Doesn't the consultant do that? It's paid a fortune.
Sorry?
Doesn't the consultant do Paid too much to do that.
The trouble is, if we get him to do any more, he'll just charge us more.
That's what Councillor Spark
At the moment, yeah, we haven't got any money to pay.
So if we run
No.
out there,
Yeah.
So he's not going to get paid for what he's done already, so that's...
it's a bit more, but we
Yeah.
Okay, are we happy? Apart from that page reference, is everything on there okay?
Is the 5.3 the minimum 312 homes? Was that under discussion last time I was here, or was that I misread that? Was there a reduction in the minimum number you were there?
I think
We're-
that, in a sense, will answer that question after we've looked at all the sites
Yeah,
as part of this process. Because
Yes.
at the moment, it does allocate 312.
it does, yes. So we perhaps come back to that one. We need to make a note of that, I think, Clark, that we're coming back to page 20.
So that's the minimum the plan provides, not the minimum we have to provide.
Yes.
From the council.
That's what the plan is providing, yes. So we're subject to coming back to that when we look at the housing at specific sites. That's page 20, okay. Moving on.
Also, just bullet points. We don't have a uniformity of bullet points, so if that's if you looked at it.
Sorry?
Well, 5.2 bullet points are bigger than 5.3, so they might get a bit upset with 5.3.
And the gaps bigger.
It's about
Oh,
uniformity.
the dots.
Yeah.
Right.
And the distance. It depends how you want, if you're happy with it.
It's sort of diverse, doing different
Yeah.
sites.
It is rather.
It might be another page we send to you, Councillor Fuller, and get you to just format that for us.
Just like the dots.
Yep, and we'll paste it back in once you've done it. Protecting and enhancing the natural and built environment, page 21. The Oundle settlement boundary. Now we've moved the settlement boundary. Councillor Chappell.
I have to say, I don't like the wording of the policy. I did circulate, I think, over the weekend, a suggestion about how that might be worded. Because, to me, this isn't clear enough as to what exactly it's getting at. Currently, it says development within the settlement boundary is defined on the policies map. As defined on the policies map, will be granted planning permission subject to more specific policies of the development plan regarding individual sites, areas or land uses. Now, I can see what he's getting at, and there's nothing wrong with it. But on the other hand, I think that a more definitive statement along the lines of talking about will be granted planning permission if and only if the development site is allocated for residential development in the plan, or the development proposed would constitute uniform development.
Yeah.
Now that applies specifically to residential development, and this phrase doesn't say residential development, it just says development will be.
Yes.
So it may be that this policy was designed to be wider than just residential development, in which case maybe the wording perhaps is okay, but certainly if you're talking about it as residential development, to say that the only thing where we're saying it will be granted is if the site is allocated or it's windfall, because we define windfall later on in the plan anyway. And that makes it very clear then that applications that come in for unallocated sites, there is no presumption in favour of development, even if it's within the settlement boundary, which is the point.
Does it depend on the policies map, which we don't have sight of?
The thing we're waiting for.
Yeah.
Well, I think I said, I'm assuming that the reference to that is simply a reference to the settlement boundary.
Yeah,
It's shown on
which
that
hasn't
map.
been changed.
So,
The settlement boundary.
The settlement boundary is the settlement boundary. So the question is the wording that goes around it now.
We've moved the settlement boundary, haven't we, to go around these new
I
sites?
think it might mean everything, but then, in a sense, should it? Maybe it should. Maybe it should be left wider, in which case maybe it doesn't need to be as tight as I've drawn it. Unless you have it almost as a two-part policy. development other than residential development block, residential development, and then make that point.
It is a major issue.
Presumably both residential and non-residential have got to be within the settlement boundary.
Well, clearly they've both got to be within the settlement boundary.
Talks about build development there.
Yeah, but in a sense, the policies are one of the things that people are going to turn to. If they're going to vote for this, you're likely to look at the policies and decide, do I like or balance the policies that are there? And I think that a policy that is more clearly written in terms of making sure that residential development only occurs on the sites that are allocated would make that absolutely crystal clear, would make a degree of sense.
But the problem with that is it does mean that no further, almost no further commercial development can be done in Arundel.
What if you leave that reference to development and say that development, including commercial development, has to be restricted within the settlement boundary? But of course the reality is the settlement boundary is rapidly filling up. And so you're right, I mean the opportunities for further commercial development within the town are becoming less and less because there is less of the town that could conceivably be developed. In fact, that's one of the reasons why the plan doesn't allocate any sites for commercial development, because we basically couldn't find any sites, nor was there any enthusiasm from landowners to put any forward.
No, I thought that was the main reason, that there was no...
We didn't
Nobody
come up
called
with
for
a
sites, nobody came forward with anything commercial.
We did actually approach Arundel School at one point and say, look, you know, we would be minded to include this. We went down a bit like a lead balloon, and we just weren't interested.
Yeah. We have moved the settlement boundary around the new developments.
Yes.
That's had to happen, so the settlement boundary has changed from what it was prior to this plan to incorporate the new housing developments, because I think most of them, if not all of them, were outside of the
Yes, the
previous settlement boundary.
the reason I indicated before, most of the land inside the previous settlement boundary that was developable had been developed.
To move this forward, have you got a form of words that...
Well, I think we need to decide whether we're trying to draft something that relates to all development and do it in a single sentence, or whether you want something that specifically relates to residential, or whether you do it in two parts and have one that relates to development and one that relates to residential. I've certainly got a form of words for residential.
I think we have to put something in about commercial as well, because you know you can keep going on residential, but eventually you're going to have to put some more commercial somewhere. Because if you don't, you're not going to be able to support the people who actually live in
Well,
Arundel.
maybe the answer then would be to retain this wording, but make it policy 0.1 and then have a sort of 1.1 and 1.2. 1.1 could be this, development, brackets, other than residential, those brackets, within the settlement boundary. And then the second bit, which would be residential development within the settlement boundary. And then the wording that I suggested will be granted planning permission if and only if the development is on a site, or only if the development site is allocated for residential development in the plan, or the development proposed would constitute windfall development. Makes it perfectly clear there are only two options.
Right.
It's either got to fit my definition of windfall, or it's got to be on an allocated site, and if it's not,
Yes.
it fails.
So is it point 1.1?
So we have 1.1 would be development other than residential, and 1.2 could be residential, and have both. And then that meets the point that the council appeal makes.
I think that's sort of
And
solves
we've
it.
got that wording in your email, so we can...
There's only the wording relating to residential.
Do you want me to email you tonight?
Yes,
I'll
please.
read
Yes.
that to my list of things to
Yep.
do.
And then we can move on. I think if we've got that, if we're happy,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point.
if we're happy with that, yeah, it is. Yeah,
Page 22.
yeah. That's everything on 21. Then moving on to 22. Now,
This is the
start of 22 is what was the coalescence policy in an appendix, because it's difficult to talk within your plan about stuff that's outside your parish. So we had long debates. We had the monitoring officer involved in this. We had East Northants planning officers involved in it as to how we could best formulate this, and we had it in an appendix attached to the plan, and the wording agreed with our neighbours, and then the consultant has moved it into this statement inside the plan, which worried me enormously when I saw it, having agreed it with the neighbours.
I'm less worried about it being in the plan as opposed to an appendix to the plan, because I think that would be semantic. And in fact, it's not the only, these are really supporting actions, and that's how you describe them. Whether one could come up with a better form of wording to describe what this really is, I don't know. But the question that does arise is, why does this form of words not mirror that which we had originally gone to a lot of trouble to try and come up with? Now, there may be a perfectly good reason for it, but if not, I'd rather that we stuck to the form of words that we were in discussion with platform with in particular, which was, as I say, we spent an inordinate amount of time trying to sort out.
Well, there's what we had before. It was preventing coalescence. Development proposals should respect the individual and distinct identities of Oundle, Glapthorne, which is spelt wrongly, I've just noticed, Cottersbrook, it should be Cotterstock, and Stoke Doyle, and the open gaps between them. Development will not be permitted if, individually or cumulatively, it would result in the loss of the visual and physical separation of these areas, which would harm the setting and identity of these distinct areas, or lead to their coalescence. That's what was put in before, and we had quite a bit of...
Why don't we just go back to that?
This was the entire appendix that we had. We can still refer to an attached document in the evidence base to talk about the rest of that, but those words in blue there that I've just read out could go in instead of what the consultants put in.
Yeah, well, let's just do that. I think that's probably a wise thing.
The only observation I would make about that wording is that it names some of our adjoining parishes,
But not all of them. Yeah.
and it might be easier to avoid offending or upsetting any of them, and blaming we've done that enough times,
Yes.
would be to simply refer to adjoining parishes
Yes.
without naming them.
Especially if we're going to name them incorrectly.
Yes, I'm really
Galthorne, Cottersbrook.
I mean, there is a Cottersbrook.
There is, miles off.
But it's a long way from here.
Yeah.
Oundle's going towards it.
Yeah.
The only thing is there anything that he's written here that we need to keep? Or
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, his first line seems very clear, isn't it? Could you not add the extra bit to the bottom of what he's written?
You mean 5859?
No, that's right, the supporting action.
We could have a combination of the two. We could
Yeah,
put
yeah.
that.
The trouble with the
Underneath.
wording in here
Yeah.
is it's a hostage to fortune, because it says where the proposal conflicts with the objectives of the neighbourhood plan. Well, can't you just see arguments developing about whether something does and doesn't conflict with the objectives of the plan? Whereas that wording,
Was pretty, we spoke about
which
that.
talks about avoiding coalescent situations, is extremely specific.
Mm.
And it seems to me it's much easier to apply what we put in there than it would be to apply what
I find this
I'll
difficult.
take a comment from Roger.
The reason that wasn't in the document in the first place was because we were told we couldn't comment on activities outside the boundary boundary,
Exactly.
and that does.
Mhm.
So it shouldn't be in the document per se. I entirely agree with Councillor Chapman that your form of words, hard worked into place, should be used. I think we just need to go back to the consultant and say, thank you very much, but
I find that easy to read and understand, and it's a very strong language than this.
And we just say parishes adjoining rather
Adjoining
than
Yes.
parishes.
Yeah.
actual names.
Yeah, it's too much detail in
Yeah.
the effect.
Well, we're already joined.
And let's face it, if we are told in due course that we can't put it in here, and we seem to have had very conflicting messages, because we certainly started off being told, as Roger was telling us, that you couldn't refer to things. But that is on the basis, I suppose, of saying that you can't include in your plan something that says we want to develop something outside our parish. This, of course, is simply saying, as a matter of fact, we would oppose developments outside the parish that do X, Y and Z. And there's nothing intrinsically wrong with a town or parish council having a policy along those lines. So I suspect we could put it in. And if we do put it in, I think it should say, broadly speaking, what that is.
Particularly if we've agreed it with the parishes and they're expecting it in there. And I think we should strip out this and replace it.
Reinstate that, and there's no bit of the current one that needs to be retained when we reinstate this then.
No, I don't.
No, we can just wipe that out, can't we? And just put parishes rather than naming villages.
Are you happy with that?
Yeah, that's fine, I'll do that.
So that deals with that one, if we're happy with that. Protection of green spaces, is there anything there that we've got any conflict with? It's
We have got that.
creeping round towards 9 o'clock.
Yeah, the document that Ian's just looking
I'm
at.
sorry I keep raising my hand, but
You're allowed to.
It's all right,
Yeah.
I think the wording of this is actually, again, quite difficult to actually understand. Development on land designated as local green space on the policies map will not be permitted unless it can be clearly demonstrated that the development will not conflict with the purpose of the designation. Well, A, what the hell does that actually mean? And B, how the hell does any development not conflict with the idea of keeping a green space green? I mean, by definition, it must do. It just seems to me that it would almost be better to take out the words unless it can be clearly demonstrated, etc. So that you just have a statement, development on land designated as local green space on the policies map will not be permitted, full stop.
I think
Why should it say anything more?
we wouldn't be wanting to develop.
By the sounds of it, it's basically just trying to waffle along.
I mean, we may find that we are told that having a sort of a total blanket ban is unacceptable, but I'd rather start from the principle of having a total blanket ban. If we're told we can't have it, then we find another way of doing it. But to put an unless in, again, just using that phrase, it's asking for fortune. People then argue that it doesn't, and whether it says here, it doesn't conflict with the purpose of the designation. Right?
We're at the bottom of page 23, now this bit
Oh,
in
right,
blue,
okay.
that bit there.
Right.
Yeah. And David is saying we stop the sentence that will not be permitted and forget the unless onwards.
Things like one of the things that the football club want to do is down, you know, the football pitches down at the bottom behind Colthall, you know, right where the river is, and they wanted to put a little clubhouse down there. That's the sort of thing that people are talking about, like putting clubhouses on sports pitches. I think that's something that you would probably want to consider as an option, rather than these huge, what they call those great big metal things that are containers, which are rubbish.
I've got one of those.
Yeah, no, they're not very good for storing.
Don't fall out, lads.
You know what I mean?
No, I understand what you say.
Yeah.
So that's probably what it's saying, and in some respects, it allows that option to happen. But
Yes.
I agree with Councillor Chappell, I think, the idea that we're going to say no, but it doesn't mean it's done. It's going to say yes. Well, yeah, I mean, it's just saying, if you want to say no, you've got the thing to say no with.
Okay, let's just cross out that last.
Is that what we're going with? We're taking
No,
out
I think
Do you
everything.
want me to ask Mike
Yes.
why he's put that in first before we
Well, we're not
just
just-
delete
Yes,
it?
I mean, and there may be something
Yeah.
Roger.
outside of this, we can't do what I'd like to.
I think you've hit on, excuse me, the difference of style between what we were trying to achieve and what Mike Halen was trying to achieve.
Yeah.
He seems to be hedging every bet he can possibly hedge with the way he's phrasing it.
Yeah.
The neighbourhood plan.
Yeah.
It just doesn't sit with me very well.
We've got another unless in 04, haven't we?
To be honest, I would say I would actually say that we don't want to do that. We just want to say it's not permitted, and that's it.
Yeah.
You know, we've got to sort of. Otherwise, we're going to be doing this
Yep.
over the next 6 months, and we're going to say, well, this word's not right. Let's just say this word's not right now, and just be done with it.
So everything after the word permitted will be deleted.
Okay.
Okay, that's page 23. Moving on to 24.
Oh, right, sorry, it's all that. I thought it was just.
We're now on to policy 03, important open space. Have we any comments on that?
There's a huge unless.
And just one point, and you may argue that it's marginally semantic, but I think it actually makes it clearer. In 3.3, it talks about prior to the use of the existing site ceasing. Well, it's not prior to the use of the existing site ceasing, it's prior to the existing use of the site ceasing.
Yeah.
We're talking about the use, that's what's important, and the existing use. So I think the word existing simply needs to be moved, and moved before the word use. So it says prior to the existing use of site ceasing,
No, I think that's fair.
which is much clearer.
Which means you can't do it until...
That's done now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about 04?
So we're leaving out the prior to. Is that what
No,
we're
we're
doing?
not leaving it out,
No,
we're simply moving
moving
the word
existing
existing to before the word
before-
use, because it's qualifying the word use rather than the word
I'm with
site.
it. Yes, okay.
Why you need a lawyer looking at this?
Yes, yeah, yeah,
That's exactly why.
yeah,
It is actually.
yes.
Nitpicking.
Absolutely.
All the way
That's,
Yes,
yeah,
we've only got half an hour
Barrister will
more.
be doing
Yeah.
yeah,
when you get to an appeal.
yes,
So we've only got another
Yeah.
half an hour.
yes.
Sorry?
And a lot to do. The biggest bit of it still
come
to
on.
do, so.
Are you worried about 04 with the unless in 04, Greg? Alright, that's okay.
Happy with 04.
Page?
Provision and enhancement of open space. Any problems with that on the bottom of 24? No. Page
Actually, it'd be helpful
25.
If you gave us warning of when the bit that you want us to really work on. Because this is stuff that can be done by a couple of people to look through it.
No, we do.
No, it's got to be done here.
Then
really.
everybody knows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please do.
It's your fault.
Arguably, I've only got 4 small points
Any-
before I suspect we hit the one where we're going to start arguing.
Go on, Ed. What page are we on? Sorry.
25.
You got some more on 25, have you? No? Happy with 25. Move on. 26. We've got this bit about the Oundletown design statement, which Councillor Hutton is working on at the moment. So, unless you've got any issue with what's mentioned there, Councillor Hutton, we move on with that.
That's it.
To 27, we're now coming into achieving high quality design. Any problems with that statement?
It's all right actually putting that in there, but when you've got developers doing developments, half the time their designs and quality is not that good anyway.
Well, that's what they
You only have to, you only have to look at Creed Road to see that.
Yeah.
But then maybe there wasn't a strong enough policy in our
yeah,
NOTP.
yeah.
No.
Well,
Perhaps
that's
this
possible.
would-
Yeah.
Hopefully it might help.
Are we happy with 27?
Yeah.
Policies map again has got to be included, but it's mentioned in lots of places. We move on to 28. Are we happy with 28? Protecting important views. Wording okay there? Yes? Promoting and enhancing the economy.
So just quickly, are we allowed to give a copy of this to a member of the public?
Yeah.
Yes? Yeah? Yeah, it's a public document now, yeah.
It's not on the website.
No, because the previous one is, because
Yeah,
tonight we're approving this one. Once the amendment's been made, this one will then go on, supersede that one.
Okay.
Would it help, I'm going to make a suggestion now I probably shouldn't make, but can Neil hitch a chair up and look
I was
at
going
that
to
with...
suggest Neil come round, but I wasn't sure if it's proper protocol. So.
There we go.
He's not supposed to vote on anything, but
The
he
only thing
can
is
come and sit on the end of the
that-
table.
I sent it to him.
He hasn't been
Because
co-opted,
obviously
but
this is, that is going to change.
Is that a date? And he wants to help. He can't see anything.
Yeah.
yeah. Are we happy with page 28 then? The important views.
I think the one thing I would say is 522, with the retail side of it, I think more has got to be done with the smaller retailers in West Street and the town centre to help them combat the out of town retailers, and I'm talking about the Wharf, places like that. I know it's still in Oundle, but it does actually take customers away from the centre of the town. You know, and also maybe sort of get some sort of policy that we could have for better internet and some sort of training for the traders in the town in regard to use of the internet to help them keep the businesses going.
Well, you've got trainers.
Sorry?
You've got people to train.
Right, if we're happy with 28, we'll move on. Page 29. Now that's where we've got the...
We've got another map of that as well, slightly clearer.
Yeah, I can't see that now.
Yes, we've got a better map than
Even
that.
my glasses off.
So is that going to appear better than just the
Yeah, I did send them to Mike, but I'm just concerned that the format, whether they're big and he's shrunk them down, that's why they look like this. But I was sent 2 more from East
Well,
and
we could
West.
always crop the maps. You don't need to have the Northamptonshire signs.
Bit down the side, yeah.
And to be honest, if you've got an issue like that, then I would crop it. And that's a simple solution. Or you have it, the other thing to do is, you've got to be careful a bit, if you have the map, if you've got a map that's very difficult to read but needs to be big, then just have it on a page. On
Yeah,
the
that's
side.
what I was
So
thinking.
you do,
whether-
boom,
yeah.
there's the map.
Yes.
This is quite important.
Yeah, it is very important. The cropping issue, whether that's what ENC were talking to us about the other day when they were saying subject to licensing.
Yeah, I'm wondering whether we have
Constraints.
to leave that little bit on the side.
Whether
it's
because
mapped
it's
from
somebody
there.
else's map.
So then what you do is you then do it as a full page.
Yeah. I'll
On the
just,
side.
I'll first of all check, see if the ones I've got are clearer than this, if they are.
We'll have to
then.
play with that, I think. We'll leave that with the clerk to play with how we can improve that and move on swiftly. That takes us through 29 to page 30. Town centre.
It isn't, but I have 2 points on page 30.
Right.
One is, I worry about anything that talks about adding to the attractiveness of the town centre. That is such a subjective word that it's going to be impossible to win an argument, if we're not careful, about whether something is or isn't enhancing the attractiveness of the town centre. If they were, and again, what is he actually getting at? Does he mean visual attractiveness? Because I don't think he does. I think what this was meant to be was the appeal of the town centre. But you can't put the appeal of the town centre either, because that would be a very difficult phrase to interpret. And I haven't come up with a better form of wording at the moment, but I do worry about adding to the attractiveness of the town centre. Unless you put something that it will add to the see, whatever word you use, if you start saying the vitality of, or I mean, whether if you could talk about the commercial.
Yeah, but commercial means that I'm a big company.
Commercial success of, but I am hunting for a word.
What about
Just do what we did last time, which is just cut it short and say
Yes.
that retail usage will be retained.
I know that you will struggle with that, because if you look at, for example, the core spatial strategy, there is wording in that. I must admit, I haven't had time to double check it, but it may even use the same wording, and if it does, maybe we could follow it. But it would be worth just double checking what the core spatial strategy says in this area, because you do need to have an exception, because you won't get it through if you don't have a degree of flexibility here. Because this is largely mirroring that document.
Yeah.
I'm just worried about that phrase. But it's the thing that's missing from here,
Yeah.
which Councillor Peel has half sort of talked about. In the original drafts of this document, there was a whole policy about opposition to the retail developments outside the town centre, but it's gone. It's completely absent in this plan. Now I know that to some extent we got into a bit of an issue around the wharf development,
Yes.
because in a sense by not opposing stroke actually welcoming what happened down at Wharf, we were actually starting to approve the development of an out of town semi-retail type area, but it is relatively niche what's there. But I do feel that some sort of a policy that says that outside the town centre retail uses should not generally be permitted. The only possible exception to that, and Councillor Fraser will recall discussions we had about it, if you look at the very big site, Benfield Road North, which has 100 plus houses in this allocation, and where there's potential for much greater development. We did talk about whether or not, in fact, somebody might be interested in opening a convenience store, to use that phrase again, because there would be a pedestrian linkage through to the existing Creed Road development, so it could service that plus the new development. And I think we tended to feel that having that kind of an outlet in that location might be acceptable. But the complete lack of any policy opposing retail development outside the town centre is, I think, a major gap as it stands. Because you've only got to get somebody who decides that they want to apply for something in some slightly odd position.
Stop it.
And there's nothing here that would enable ENC to turn around and say, oh, but it's contrary to the Edinburgh neighbourhood plan, so you can't do it. So I think that where we've got town centre and retail development, you could add in a fourth limb to this policy, which is to say that town centre uses or retail uses, and again, town centre uses has a meaning under the, certainly within the core spatial strategy, should be restricted to the town centre, unless we want to put in a derogation from that about the possibility of a retail unit up on that big side.
See, I don't think you should do that. I mean, obviously we've got the wharf. It's not the best thing in the world because of those bloody awful signs they've got. But it does bring people into Amble. Whether it brings people into the town centre is another kettle of fish, but it does bring people into Amble. I honestly can't say that you could actually say you can't put any other retail outlets on. And we did have a discussion about Benfield Road, and I agree. I thought that was intended to go, that we would actually do some sort of convenience store there in the future. Whether we should then refrain from allowing any other retail outlets on the perimeter of Oundle is very difficult, because if you look at Barnwell, the marina, if their plans go ahead in the future, there are several retail units going to be going there, as well as houses. Now I know that's not in Oundle as such, but it really does affect Oundle if you're having retail outlets there. So you can't sort of stop it if it's just on the border. You can't
I appreciate we can't, for the reasons we've already talked about, include within this neighbourhood plan policies that are positive, for example, in Barnwell Parish. You could arguably say, just as we've said on the policy of coalescence, that we would oppose such applications. We're going to be consulted about development of the marina. We've already been consulted in the past, and we might choose to object to certain retail uses down there, for all I know, because of the potential impact on the town. But well, my view is that we should have a policy in here. I understand to a degree what Councillor Keane was saying, but I feel that existing retailers in the town, for example, would be disappointed, if not downright angry, that there isn't some sort of policy like that in this document, and we want them on board with it, it seems to me. And they're more likely to be on board with it if we put something appropriate in here.
The reason I say against that, sorry, Councillor Chapman, but the reason I say that against that is because we've already shot, if you like, a lot of the town retailers in the foot by letting the wharf go ahead. And that's, you know, no disrespect for the wharf. It's a lovely centre. It does a lot. It does a lot to bring people into Alnwick now. But if we hadn't let that go ahead, then there are a lot more people in the town centre wouldn't be worried about whether they could continue in their shops next year.
Isn't that a reason for having a policy now?
Well, I think it's
because what we could say, the wharf is fine with it. You could even define an area at the wharf where further development might be potentially permitted. I'm not saying we should, but what I would be anxious to avoid is, frankly, some form of out-of-town shopping developing.
Like Waitrose.
Yeah, I mean, if there was a Waitrose type development or whatever it was, but it was right on the edges of the town, because that would be.
It was built in an area we had designated for commercial use.
I think that's what we discussed when we went through the plan of the working group. We did incorporate that area, didn't we?
Yes.
I think I don't really understand the comments about the wharf competing with town centre shops, because I can't think of a single retail outlet at the wharf that competes with any of the shops in town.
No, I didn't say
so,
that. What I said was the shops are suffering.
I agree with you.
So I think it's complementary. So the difficulty is whether we can encourage new developments that complement the existing. I mean, like you say, you don't really want another coffee shop, or you know, another store competing directly with.
The difficulty there, of course, is use classes. Once you've allowed A1 retail use, the fact that somebody decides not to sell bicycles and decides to sell something else may directly compete. Supposing somebody entered an out-of-town shoe shop.
You have got one area of competition. You've got the tap and kitchen, which is in direct competition with restaurants and with pubs and bars.
It's not really.
I mean, if you had that pub open at the top of the roundabout, that would be competition. That does go.
But people like choice. They come into the town if there's no choice.
And we're getting bigger as well. We need more
So
choice.
it would be totally wrong to
No, I'm not against
have
it.
a policy that we don't compete.
Well, I'm not against it. What I'm saying is, you know, we can't say that there's nothing down the wharf that doesn't compete with town centre. I mean, that is the only one that does. None of the others, you're quite right, none of the others do.
There is the bakers and there's not
conflict with us.
Well,
Yeah.
Compete with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think and that's the crazy thing about it.
And the bakers aren't really in competition.
No, there's different sort of bakers.
Isn't the way the town is developing, isn't there also a change in where the centre of the town is? Because the town centre isn't the town centre anymore.
No.
If you look at the map, Creed Road, if you live in the far end of Creed Road, you can jump in your car, and then away you might as well drive to the wharf or Peterborough or someone else. So maybe holding everything into the town centre is actually counterintuitive to the way the town is developing.
Well, with respect, Fletton House has very largely moved to the centre of the town.
Absolutely, towards the centre.
It's a number of satellites now, isn't it? There's an old town centre and a number of satellites.
So actually allowing convenience stores at Creed Road.
Sorry, may I?
Yep.
David's question about the attractiveness of the town centre, question that particular word. Could you not use something like the commercial character and architectural heritage.
I agree. The word vernacular is the word that we're using. Because
But
that's
it's a
the
commercial
character of the
change.
town.
Well, yeah, but when you look at it, what this is talking about is retail uses should be retained unless.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about the building in which the retail use is, whether
No.
the building could.
You're talking about stopping doing retail to do something else.
Stopping
It's
being
the
retail.
use.
Yes.
And so they're saying, well, that shouldn't happen unless it can be demonstrated that the proposal will add to the attractiveness of the town centre.
Mm.
Now, supposing that you wanted to close down a retail centre, I don't know, open a lap, dancing bar or whatever, there will be those who will argue that that would increase the attractiveness of the town centre, because people may be attracted to it, people might be repelled by it as well. But if you put the word attractiveness in there, I mean, how on earth do you judge it?
Yeah.
That's my point.
Well,
I'm just struggling to think of a word
That
that,
is the word.
yes, but I just don't know what the right word is.
Commercial character?
Traditional atmosphere.
Well, again, I think we have the same problem. What's a traditional atmosphere?
True.
Aesthetics.
It's the attractiveness isn't about the look.
It's almost as if it will be in keeping with the
Aesthetics of the town.
I don't think it is the aesthetics.
Well,
It's
it's not the
about
aesthetics, it's
people
to do
wanting to
with-
come into the town
It's-
to get their needs met.
The word that they actually should have put here is appeal, because
Yeah.
what they're talking about
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
that the proposal would add to the appeal of the town centre.
Can we change attractiveness for appeal? Because we
Oh,
really
I think
need
it's
to.
marginally easier to understand what it's getting.
Councillor Hutton.
I was going to suggest that, I mean, we've been debating this for a little while now, I was going to say one or two people take it away and come back with a firm word.
Can I propose that we substitute the word appeal
Yeah.
for the time being, because I
Yeah.
think it's a better word.
Unless someone can come up with a better one, perhaps for Tuesday night.
And if even that might.
Right.
Okay, let's move on. That's page 30. Well, we're not, because the hard yards are still coming. We're now on to page 31.
Just a very minor one, but in point 2, includes adequate provision for on-site parking, servicing and manoeuvring. Now, I think I know what they're getting at. But I just got this vision all over Oundle of little mini garages springing up doing car servicing. Does he really need to have the word? We need provision for parking, and people need to be able to manoeuvre in and out, whether that's because they're delivering to the property or visiting it. So why not just put parking and manoeuvring and take the word servicing out?
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. Yep, done, and move on, shall we?
Yeah, it's festival site. Is it 32?
Yep. I think there's a whole range of things that can be used for that we discussed with the landowner.
This is supposed to be going on the other end now, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, somewhere within that site.
Benefield
Yeah.
Road.
Yeah, up the Benefield Road, and there will be flexibility within that site where it goes on that site. I think there are potential uses for that would be of great use to the town.
I'd like to rewrite on this page 31, 530, because it's so incorrect.
538, this is 31,
It's
yeah.
rubbish.
Okay.
There's other festivals been going on a lot longer than that.
Right.
If you're going to start talking about facts, you've got to get them right.
Yep. Do you want to come back to us then with
Yep.
a revised 530 on page 31? So Councillor Chesser will revise that and come back to us to get that in keeping with what is going on in the town. Any more on this festival site then?
No.
Are we happy with that? Move on. Employment areas, anything on there? Safeguarding employment sites, are we happy with what's mentioned there?
We want to safeguard them, yes.
And then protecting and enhancing community services and facilities.
I'm sorry, but what is the point of having policy 12 in there? This annual school sports master plan has already been before this council on probably at least a dozen occasions with permission being granted for all sorts of development on that site.
Yeah.
The progress that's been made there has outstripped this plan.
Yeah.
I understand why there is a reference in there
Yes.
to the idea about making these things accessible to the public. But arguably, that isn't part of this document. It's almost a sort of community plan type scenario.
Mm.
We might want to encourage the school to make its facilities available to members of the public.
Yeah.
But it's certainly not part of the planning.
No, that's community action plan that follows on from neighbourhood plan. Yeah.
So this section probably needs tightening up in some way, but the policy itself, I think, is now effectively meaningless unless somebody can convince me otherwise.
So the photo and map as well.
Sorry?
The photo and map, well, that's the old plan, it's changed.
Yeah.
Since then.
Yeah. Which is why I say I think the whole thing needs a certain amount of tidying up.
They didn't-
But we
Yeah, they don't
did
add
talk
anything to
about
it, do they?
putting in at that earlier section some reference to all of this, and maybe that some of this that's in here could be put down there with some sort of aspirational thing about wanting to work with Angle School to try to ensure that as many of its facilities as possible are made available to the.
Is somebody going to have a crack at it? Because otherwise we should be here all night.
Well done, David.
What's the time scale?
I was just thinking, I mean, obviously on the agenda tonight we've got to go through this and amend and approve the amendments.
Yeah.
But obviously there's quite a few people going off writing things that are then going to come to me.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily think you're going to be able to approve this tonight.
No.
I think it's going to have to come
I think
back.
that might have to come back next Tuesday.
Right,
Yeah,
now,
you can try and get
as you're
something
aware,
down.
I have sent the agenda out because I thought if I got snowed in, I might not be able to do it.
Yeah.
But I don't think I will, so I'll probably come back and amend that agenda,
Yeah.
if that's okay, to just
Amend
put
the amended agenda.
this on
Since
it
we tried
again.
to amend it, wouldn't we?
Yeah, we've got to finish this by next week.
Got to crack on with it. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yes. Whether I can circulate it much in advance of Tuesday, I don't know.
Right.
but at least if we've got something,
Wondering little
Yeah.
bits of things.
yeah.
And
What's the plan now? Because we're moving up at time.
Yeah, we are.
So are we going to
I
plan
don't-
on, draw alignment at some point and
I think we
Press on with
carry on tonight.
press on with as much as we possibly can. Because
Enough
yeah.
to do tonight and
Yeah.
on Tuesday.
I think as
10 o'clock?
Councillor Clark has said, the plan and the pictures there, the map and the pictures for Oundle School bit there, don't do it any justice. They're not a great help. We either need something that's up to date, and or leave them out altogether.
Leave it out.
This needs,
A very concise piece about
Yeah.
it doesn't need much.
Now
happened.
we've got something that is relevant on page 35, and that is supporting action 2, assets of community value.
Yes.
Are we happy with what's worded there in the light of Fletton Field?
That's what we're doing, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're happy with that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. The enhancement and
Sorry,
protection.
just look. Is somebody rewriting this last plan, or is it coming out?
I'm going to take a look at it as to what we do with it. I
Right.
suspect it might be quite
You've
considerable.
got to change all your numbers.
I do chop.
Yes, it's going to change the
I-
policy
It
numbers
doesn't need to
and
be.
everything else.
Doesn't
But
need to be
I
there.
just don't
No.
think it's needed.
No. Right, let's try and press on. We've got 5 minutes. Housing site allocation. We're now coming to the crux of it, and we've got these 7 sites in here.
What page is it on?
What page are you on
I'm now on page 42.
Oh, I'm only on this.
We're on 36.
Sorry, I've jumped. Sorry, I've jumped.
now? Sorry, I asked.
Sorry, I jumped.
Shall we just go to 42?
No. No, sorry, my fault.
Yeah, I've got one point on page 36 and then nothing until we get
Go
to
on
the
then.
housing bit.
Let's have 36.
Policy 13.2, you will notice the reference to, in the last line, a more central site within the village is not available.
Oh, yes,
Just the
that
word
has to be
village
checked.
could be changed to town.
Yeah.
Yes.
There you go.
That's
Yep.
that done then. So now we
Smashing.
move to 42.
No, improving accessibility and connectivity on page 36 at the bottom, traffic management, are we happy with that?
Yes.
Supporting action 3, transport and parking improvements.
Yes.
Not a lot else we can do about it,
No.
is there?
No. Construction vehicles, are we happy with what's in there on page 37?
Yes.
The routing of construction vehicles,
I'm pleased to see that in actually.
yes,
Yeah.
I can think of at least one parishioner who made that point to us very forcibly at a meeting sometime.
yes, yes,
Pleased with it.
yeah.
Good then.
Walking and cycling on 38, we happy with that?
There's a typo on the second line at the end, travel to work. It's got a space, but doesn't it?
Oh,
I'll go for this. Do that little checks.
it's got 2001 census, shouldn't that be 2011?
Yeah,
Yes, it is 2000.
should be 2011, yeah.
Yeah.
So where are we now? We end of page 38.
No. We're on page 40 now.
You're down to page 40. You're on 39. You're now on 40.
There's obviously a figure on page 39 that needs a number on it, but that's highlighted already.
Yes, that needs a number.
And we've got the circular cycle pedestrian network. Is there a map for that? I think a map.
Maybe that's the figure that's missing, is it?
I think
There
it's
is-
the figure the policies not. No, it wouldn't be, it'd have policies, illustration,
No.
figure.
It needs to be a...
Is this the room showing the figure or indicative only, so the map?
Do you want me to ask Mike why he's put that
Yeah,
on?
that must be a map
Yeah.
of some sort.
The only thing I would say at this point is,
I think that's the cycleway map that's missing from there. Figure whatever is the cycleway map, which is one of the overlays that Mark is working on,
Yeah.
isn't it?
good,
So
so there is a map coming and that's what that figure is.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I'm sure that's what it is.
Will they be in by next Tuesday?
We're meeting him Thursday, so we'll see if he's got those to go in for next Tuesday.
I think you could improve it without the specific plans being in, as long as you know what they're
Yeah.
going to be.
Right, we're on page 40 now. Are we happy with 40?
Ecstatic.
Hmm?
Very good, yes.
Jolly good. Right, moving on then. Meeting housing requirements. This is where the heavy bit starts to come in. Housing site allocations on 41.
I'm just getting ready.
You're getting ready, right? Okay, 42 then.
Right.
You're ready to jump, I know.
Well,
Oh,
yes.
just one
Yep.
thing on 41. That
Yep.
highlighted area
Yes,
refers to an assessment, 12.
yes.
But if when you go down to the bottom, it doesn't look like that's...
12 hasn't got a footnote.
We haven't got an
No.
assessment, so
No,
we probably
was
need one.
undertaken to determine which of these. This is the methodology, isn't it, that he's referring
Yeah.
to there,
Well, yes, I mean, there was a whole sort of
which will appear in the evidence
Neither
base.
I spent money on happy hour on it.
Yeah,
I wouldn't go that far.
Neither I spent money an hour on it.
yes.
Is that the methodological or is that?
Happy hour normally.
Is that there was one where some questions have been raised.
Hmm.
This is the second last paragraph in there.
Okay,
The room plans.
right.
We're on 42 now.
We're on 42 now. Councillor Chapel.
So,
This is the big issue, isn't it?
Yeah,
My fear is this, we've been told recently that the number of houses that we have to provide for in this plan has fallen from 257 to 208. I always thought it might be a relatively hard sell to include 312 dwellings against 257. But to include 312 over 208, which is over 100 more and is nearly 50% higher, is hostage to fortune, if I can use that phrase for about a third time tonight. In the consultation process that we've just completed, as we must all be aware, two particular sites seem to be the ones that stirred up all the interest. Now, it may be a collection of humans who didn't like the sites that were going to be adjacent to them and organised themselves and came along and protested.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, come along and protest they did, either in person or in writing or both. And they have put forward a number of objections to particular sites.
Yes.
Both of which we could lose and still hit the 280, and in fact still have a surplus of around 10%. Because if you took out those two sites, you delete 75 houses, you go down to 237, which is about 10% over the minimum number that we're forced to provide. The problem is that the two sites in question are probably the two that are going to stir up the biggest opposition from developers, I anticipate, who of course have rather been led to believe from everything that this council has done that their sites would be included in the plan. However, they always knew that we had to go through a process of local consultation. We are in the throes of doing that. And I think the big question for us is simply this: do we at this stage do anything? Or do we, within the Regulation 14 consultation, include what we've got in here, everything, exactly as is, but in the course of doing these things, actually start flagging up to people, if you are worried about particular sites or particular numbers, we will consider looking at this set of allocations again. Or do we take out one or other of those sites, or anything else for that matter, and present at Regulation 14 a slimmed down version of this plan?
That's a bit of a thing to take.
And it's a huge decision, and it's
Right.
a huge
Can
decision
I-
to take a 25 to
Can I
10
have a
tonight.
can I have a stab at answering this? First of all, you said the 312 is a hard sell. I mean, apart from one or two people on Saturday who were effectively saying we should have started with the number 0, one particular guy, most people, when we've spoken to them either on the markets or at the surgeries or various meetings, and I've told them we've come down from what the developers want of about 1,000 to 1,200 down to 312. They think we've done a marvellous job, and a lot of them are not put out by that unduly. So in terms of selling that, yeah, I think they'd rather have a smaller increase, but I don't think the majority of people have been overly upset by 312. It is, as you say, two sites. I think one of the sites we may have some hydrology issues that we need to take up with the Environment Agency. Have we?
Haven't done that yet, no.
We need to contact Environment Agency, meet with somebody there and find out from their hydrologists exactly what these aquifer problems are under that hill and whether that rules that site out. But there's strong grounds there. There's also the problem of congestion around the primary school at that site, which I think is going to lead to, I've got a meeting next Monday. It looks like it's now going to be all the schools, not just the primary school, but a representative of all the schools. And I have a feeling that that is going to lead to me meeting a lot more people, including parents of primary school children, who are going to be saying something massive has got to be done up at the primary school. We certainly don't want any more housing development near it, and we want a lot less congestion in the streets around there and a lot more regard to safety up there. So I think that's what's going to follow up there. So that site, I think, provided we go about it the right way with the developer, it might be one that we we can talk with the developer about reducing or potentially removing. We're waiting to see what the developer is coming back to us with there, but there seems to be a fairly sound basis of public opinion there against that site. The other site, we are being told by East Northants that although there was this situation in 2014 where the appeal was won by ENC and they were even given their costs against Persimmon, if it were repeated now, it would be a very different situation. It would be the other way around. And ENC are telling us in no uncertain terms that if it came to a battle there, they don't think that they would win it, and I don't think they'd go to an appeal on it. Do you want to come back on that?
Well, I do, because whilst I entirely accept that that's the case, if the matter came back again at the moment, with no neighbourhood plan in place, and the only relevant plan being the old RNOTP, the argument that succeeded before, that defeated the appeal, was that it wasn't allocated in RNOTP and there was an adequate land supply. Therefore, ENC's current fear is that as RNOTP gets towards the end of its useful life, it becomes easier to say that the allocations within it are no longer relevant. And the site itself doesn't have any obvious constraints. It is a developable site. There may be arguments about the other one, but that one is developable. But of course, if it wasn't allocated in this plan, the developer will have exactly the same problem, because he will be facing a local development plan that says this is not an allocated site. We've already agreed some wording that says if you aren't on an allocated site, you're not going to get permission. And the reality is, I suspect they would struggle, certainly in the early years, to get it. So I don't think that the advice, as it were, from the ENC should necessarily persuade us, oh dear, well, we can't exclude it from allocation, because the answer is yes, we can, if we choose to. The developer may argue that we've been irrational in excluding it in some way, but I think you could argue, no, we haven't, because we've listened to two things. One, and I hear what you say, but I think there is still a concern about the numbers, and I think as it becomes more widely known that the number that we're actually required to put together is substantially less than the number we have, I think that will become a bigger factor. And so you can say, well, it's in response to the fact we don't need as many numbers, and frankly, this was one of two sites that seemed to stir up the biggest hornet's nest, and therefore we decided to take it out. And it's difficult to argue with that. And I think we could exclude it. I'm not saying whether we should or we shouldn't necessarily, but I think that practically we can if we choose.
I think if you do, you then throw your whole housing methodology out the window, because what you've argued in there is that that is the number one site, and you were chair of housing objective group on the neighbourhood plan at the time when you put forward those numbers in 2015, May of 2015, and it's been in ever since. And I mean, all the methodology of selecting sites has shown that that site comes out at the top as the number one site. If you now turn around and say we've changed our minds on that one, I think you've thrown your whole housing methodology out the window.
Well, the difference is, however, where is the opposition in any significant number to Bennefield Road North, to the development of Hurn Road, to Miller's Field, to the development of Stoke Royal? There just isn't. So, no, I don't think we have. I still say that in terms of site assessment, that is a perfectly good developable site. But it does have local opposition. And we're back in a numbers game. And we worked on a numbers game to take us from 1,200 down to 312. And we could work on a numbers game again.
Yeah.
But that's a decision for us to take. And the issue is arguably, do we take it at this point and amend the plan before it goes in for Regulation 14 consultation in response to what's happened? Or do we leave it as it is? But I think then we've probably got to basically make it clear to members of the public that there is an option to include less sites for development than we have zoned, because we don't need as many.
We have mentioned that every time we've talked to people. That's been said all the way through, that these sites are provisional and it's your plan, you have the choice of what's in and what's out. Which is why they're coming back with the comments they're coming back with. So we're already saying that, we've said that from day one as far as I'm concerned, that, you know, nothing is set in stone.
But this, of course, is a formal consultation where the public will know that we have to consider what we say. We don't necessarily have to follow it.
But you haven't been to the meetings with East Northants where they are telling us that if we remove that site, they are certain that Persimmon will pursue a planning application outside of the plan. There are 2 other developers who will follow suit. I think we might then end up with the site that we really want, where we need cemetery space. We want cooperation from the developer there. They're all on board and cooperating at the moment. But I think at the first sign of trouble, there are 3 that might jump overboard and all put in planning applications before we can get a neighbourhood plan through. And it might be that at 3 sites, 2 of them which are of no problem to us at the moment, we might suddenly end up with planning applications and we could end up in a right mess. That seems to be, you know, the advice we're getting from East Northants very strongly, very clearly, that they can't see a case for this site. Am I right? Those others who've been at the meetings?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's my concern really, is that if we take out that Christmas Drive site and the developer then puts in an application for 100 plus houses and you know, and the advice that we seem to be getting is that that's, you know, likely to succeed, that we end up with a much bigger development and everyone's worse off.
Yeah.
I think, you know, at the meeting we had on Saturday, I wouldn't say it was the majority of people there, but there certainly were some people in the room who were you know, understanding that argument and saying it's better to have some planned development if we're going to have something, rather than getting something that we don't really want delivered. I wouldn't say it was necessarily the majority of the room. I think it probably was, you know, probably was more predominantly people saying no, we don't want to do everything we can to stop it. But they did it. They have gone away and said, right, well, we need to look at the 2 options. They're not dismissing the let's put the plan B, plan A and plan B. Plan A, stop it all. Plan B, have a planned development of a smaller scale. Yeah,
they've now got a working group that's coming back to us with these 2 proposals, so that we can then work up a case for either taking it out altogether, if there is a case to do that. And the other thing is, if it's got to be there, then how do we limit the problems, A, during the construction phase, and B, in the longer term, of noise on site and the road congestion and everything else. So those are the issues that they're now going to form a subcommittee and come back to us on, and we're talking that one through. So I think, possibly from my point of view, we ought to leave things where they are for the time being, and go through those phases with them.
That's one question.
Yep.
Cotterstock Road development, is that going to be, would that be affected by the new proposed old people's homes, stroke nursing homes? Going to be
Cotterstock Road?
Yeah. Where the burnt out houses, like it's Costa Road.
Perhaps I should just mention this point as Councillor Coleman raised it. I have been contacted by Graham Snelling,
Yeah.
who has asked me to meet him and representatives of the company who are interested in redeveloping the Pembroke House site on Costerscott Road, which,
Yes.
as people says, is the Sloane's old house, which got burnt out a little while ago and has sat
Yeah.
as a ruin ever since. And I'm trying to fix up a date which they've asked for a meeting sometime after the 12th of March.
Right.
Some councillors will recall that we did have a presentation, I would guess 2-3 years ago, from a group who were interested in developing that site as some form of residential home.
Yeah.
And they came and they talked to us and went away, and then, broadly speaking, nothing was heard.
Yeah.
It seems as if that idea is back on the table again, and I will go and have this site meeting with them, and I will report back to the full Council of Planning in relation to it, presumably at the April meeting. But in terms of impact on that site, I suppose the only impact is that given the level of traffic generated by the school, if you put in some form of residential home there, it's bound to increase the traffic issues in the area, and therefore further development might, I suppose, further compound it. But we're at such an early stage, there isn't, I don't know whether we are likely to see an application before we get to the point at which this document is going to be finalised, i.e. the Regulation 16 submission, which is going to be early summer, I assume.
I think the thing about building something up there where you're going to have a number of residents, a number of staff, and you're going to have visitors coming in some numbers at visiting times, which probably won't clash with school times, but could do. I think any provision they're making there is going to make sure it's got adequate on-site parking, really to go with any plans they've got. So when they're talking about numbers of bedrooms or apartments or whatever there for the elderly, that they've got to be thinking of an appropriate number of parking spaces for staff cars and for visitors' cars off the road.
I'm sure that must be right. Of course, the existing site does have a kind of an in and out. It wasn't a single entrance. Cars used to be able to come in one way and go out the other way.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that they will look at trying to retain that. But whether there's a lot of room on that site to have that kind of an in and out, have adequate on-site parking, and still be able to build some kind of viable unit, remains to be seen, I think.
Well, then that needs to be looked at when the planning application
Absolutely.
comes before us and before ENC.
But I think they're anxious to sort of engage with us first, I think, no doubt because they're conscious of these decisions. But I don't think it's something we can factor into this neighbourhood plan discussion.
No. I think we are now running out of time.
If
I think
it
we are
helps, Mr Mayor, I wanted us to have that discussion. I entirely understand the point that you've made, and I'm more than happy to say let's just leave this document at Regulation 14 stage as it is. We can reconsider this issue of whether or not one or other of those sites should remain in it.
Yes.
After the Regulation 14 consultation, which may or may not throw up something.
Yeah.
I think also that's a more critical
Yeah,
position.
I think so.
Because if we haven't actually done the full consultation, then
Yes, to do it as a
We'll-
check to what's already occurred.
We'll have the evidence one way or the other. We will also, because they're asking to meet with ENC, Councillor David Brackenbury is quite happy to come and meet them. He is head of Planning Policy Committee, I think, at ENC. Certainly Richard Palmer, Paul Bland, Mike Butler are all interested in meeting with them if necessary, one or more than one of them, to talk through, the problems of what might arise. and what can and can't be done on that site. So I think we need to see what we can come to with this working group. It was quite hard work on Saturday with them all firing questions at us from all sides all at once, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was quite constructive, I thought. I mean,
Yeah.
it wasn't,
Yeah.
they weren't particularly aggressive. They,
No.
they you know, were
No.
making their points, but they were perfectly willing to listen. They weren't trying to shout us down or anything. And as I said, it was certainly, probably not a majority, but there were certainly a number of people in the room
Yeah.
who were completely understood the argument that better to have
Yeah.
something that, you know, is defined and of a manageable size and limited, rather than being faced with an application of 140 houses coming in. Yeah.
Yeah. I think probably we're going to have to knock it on the head tonight and finish this on Tuesday next
Can I raise
week.
one other issue? Because I have only one other point to make. I don't know if anybody else that. Again, I flagged it up in that email I sent around. On the St Christopher's Drive site, it very clearly says in this draft plan that what I'm going to call the back end of the site is a kind of reserve
Yes.
that is capable of development in the plan period beyond 2031, or alternatively could be brought forward earlier if there was, for some reason, a shortfall in provision.
Yeah.
But certainly when I was working on the housing allocations, there were two other reserves as well. One was at Bennyfield Road North,
Yes.
because there's a huge amount of land up there that was surplus. But that seems to have disappeared out of here. Now that would be even more critical if we had decided tonight to take that St Christopher's Drive site out of the thing. There would be no reserve at all. But I do wonder what the rationale is for taking that reserve site out. And in fact there was a third reserve site.
Yes.
Because there was Bennyfield Road South, which
Yes.
in effect is the other side of the road to the site that we'd
To
agreed,
expand that considerably.
which we had said could be used as a reserve site, because again it passed the assessment process, if you like,
Yes.
but was considered surplus to requirements, and because they were
Yeah.
already putting forward two developments,
Yeah.
that particular landowner was content to kind of lose that one.
Yeah.
But I do think we ought to consider including within this, at the very least, some indication that the balance of the Benfield Road North site is considered suitable for development in the next plan period or being brought forward, just mirroring the wording currently used for the St Christopher's site.
And I guess that also possibly opens the door to taking the reserve sites away from St Christopher's Drive and saying that there will only be 45 houses. And
Well, there's also that, I suppose. Yes, I haven't thought of it, but yes, that would be true.
That's going to be a very long discussion, because that's what I wanted this whole meeting for. This was the crux I wanted to get to, was those maps that Mike has altered, where he's been showing whole site areas, and we're getting fire from various sides. The developers saying the densities are now extremely low in the bigger area shown, and also ENC saying that it's not viable to talk about those bigger site areas with those densities. So we need to look very carefully at those maps. That was the area I really wanted to get onto tonight, and we've spent a long while on other
I think you're right, because the maps reflect the overall land ownership
Yeah.
on which the developer was saying we could bring forward plans. What of course we might think about is whether within those sites we allocate a smaller area of the site,
Yeah.
if we feel that there is a need to keep up the density, which of course also enables you to do other things like incorporate some additional green space, or for example, St Christopher's Drive to distance the development from the roadway. Except it's 5 to 10, maybe that's a discussion too far for tonight.
I think we've got to hit it on the
I
head
think you might be
tonight.
right there, David.
It's now 9:55, and I think we need to bring this meeting to a close, and come back next Tuesday and finish this off, because we've certainly got a big issue with sorting out these maps and these expansion sites, for want of a better term.
So are we coming back to page, are we coming back to
Coming back,
page
starting from there.
42?
Yeah, back to 42, I think, and take it on from 42 again. Okay.
Thank you. I'm just saying.
Just to put, we haven't turned off or anything, or finished the agenda. But one thing, the items that people are going to write, are they going to be written before next Tuesday so they can be incorporated in?
Yes, I will.
Well, I can get a full copy because I haven't got one.
We need as far as possible those to be.
Yeah, so we can say that part's done. And
Yes.
then we're
I
gonna,
can't do stuff with people.
yeah. Okay.
Have you finished then?
Meeting closed.
We closed, I did say.
You haven't banged the thingy.
We didn't
Bang,
really
bang,
any other
bang the
business.
door.